Hi, I'm Coach Colin. I'm here to help you master your leadership. Let's talk about meetings. Maybe you've just come out of a meeting, or even you might have had meetings back to back all morning long. And you're coming out of a series of meetings thinking, my goodness, I haven't really done a single piece of work today. Perhaps you're even sitting there in the evenings trying to do work and compensate for the time that you wasted in meetings. Could that really be different? Because unfortunately, you're in good company. Because a lot of people in business who come out of meetings, they have the same criticism around these meetings. They say the meetings were inconclusive and there wasn't a real decision. They were poorly prepared, or they were disorganized, and they were even manipulated and dominated by a single or handful of individuals. Which is quite amazing, because if you think about the fact that normally at least 6 to 9 people on average are sitting in meetings, and a third of them come out and saying this was not time well spent. How would you feel if you were sitting in these types of meetings? When you look at the meetings that actually take place, you realize that there are staff meetings, there are task force meetings, there are information meetings, there are coaching meetings. Very often people refer to the meetings in relationship to the people in the meeting, but not so much around the purpose that the meeting is for. You see, if you're a project manager, if you're a team leader, if you're a department head or running a business, you would really want to change the focus on the meetings that you are having. And the reason why that is important is because in a meeting, typically there is you and your team, like 6 to 9 times the leverage in relationship to a single one-on-one meeting. Which means that if you are able to run the meeting as efficiently as you can be 6 to 9 times more efficient than single one-on-one conversations. However, I've noticed that managers have a perception around meetings that doesn't allow them to focus on these meetings enough to develop the desire to improve their most important communication tool. Why is that? Well, typically I've discovered that managers are sitting in meetings and they don't really believe the importance of meetings. Because what they don't understand is that in meetings, you communicate with your team. And when you communicate with your team, you always communicate with a purpose. And it doesn't really matter whether you want to share information or whether you want to take a decision. Every piece of information that you share as a leader, as a manager with your team, you do it because you want to change something from when the team doesn't have this information to when the team has this information. So every time you give them this extra piece of information, you expect something to change. Which means every meeting is a step on the journey that your team is taking from where they are today to where they want to be tomorrow. Which means that every single meeting has a purpose. And every single meeting that fails to reach its purpose is like trampling on a single step and you're not moving, which is literally a waste of time because you're not progressing. So not only does the company waste resources of all the people sitting there and costing time because of the salary, but also if you're leading the project or leading your team, you're losing the opportunity to take one step forward. Instead, managers very often believe that they can contribute with their team much more if they can contribute with their time and their resources. And that is why they see the meeting when they're talking to everybody as a waste of time. And they value their single time working much higher than sitting in a meeting. But if that changes, all of a sudden you see the leverage that you can have on your team to increase the effectiveness of your team taking the next step. The second thing that I've noticed is that very often managers don't really see what type of meetings they need to have. They take meetings out of a habit of having weekly meetings, which means that they get together and everybody shares what they have been doing in the last week or since the last time they met, and sometimes corporate information is shared, sometimes the report is collected so that the monthly report can be generated. But in fact, if a single meeting doesn't have a purpose, you might just as well sit around and stand around the coffee machine and have coffee and just talk about the weekend. You're not really taking a purposeful time with your team to make that change. So as a leader of your team, if you were to understand how to break down the journey from where your team is to how they're going to meet their expectations, you would suddenly realize that on this path, there have to be 4 specific meetings that have to happen. And if you don't have these meetings, then chances are that you're not going to reach the expected target in the end. Typically, managers focus on the first meeting very regularly, which is the goal meeting. And they realize how important that goal meeting is, as much as they realize that reporting the progress towards getting towards the expectation is also important. But what they're missing is the ability to manage the dynamics and the progress on this journey through regular, deliberate meetings, which keep the team focused on what they're supposed to be doing, on their priorities, and on the activities to make dedicated progress towards their goal. Only when the manager realizes which meetings have to take place and schedules those meetings in advance can they start leading their team effectively and being in control on this journey and being able to manage in those moments when the manager has to step in and manage the team so that they continuously have the dynamic progress towards the expectation of the target. The third thing that I've discovered is that when leaders actually do step in to these meetings, they are not very well equipped to run the agenda of those meetings. They run the meetings in the way they're used to run conversations, like a one-on-one conversation, which if you have a group of people, like 6 or 9 people from a team in front of you, is not really the most effective way. In fact, for those 4 dedicated meetings that a leader would want to concentrate on, there is a specific way how to run each and every meeting so that you can get the people engaged in the most effective way, focus on what this meeting is about, talk about this meeting, wrap it up, close it, and move on to the next meeting. And whenever the next meeting takes place, be prepared and efficient to close that meeting and focus on the purpose on that meeting as effectively as possible. And only when a leader is able to focus on the different 4 meetings in different ways, applying the methods of these meetings, will the team become a team, and will the progress be much more effective than letting the team figure out how to reach that expected target by itself. Now, if you would want to learn more about how you can run these 4 specific meetings, what type of methods would be applied so that you can be more effective in doing this right now, then I would invite you to join the Tuesdays or Thursdays live webinars with me, Coach Colin, because I'm going to share these elements that you need to become an effective leader. And if you would like to have a dialogue with me so that you can ask questions, so that you can share your case, and maybe even have coaching, then I would invite you to register here and follow that link below so that you can directly ask questions and get answers during my live sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:15 Stockholm time. And all you have to do is register below. It's totally free without any expectation. And I do this because I'm Coach Colin and I would like to help you master your leadership. So what are you waiting for? Register. I'm going to see you in the next webinar. Take care. Stay safe.